Okay, coming up on Friday, Pato O'Ward will join us here momentarily, and we'll lead off with Colton Herta, who was second quick in that practice session at the top speed of 226.222 miles an hour, and it's 96 laps completed today. Of course, driving the number 26 Gainbridge Honda for Andretti Global with Kerr Agajani, and he'll start 13th in his 6,500 coming up on Sunday. Your thoughts on the day? Did you guys check some boxes out there?
Yeah, it felt really good. No massive changes, which is a good thing. Car was in a nice kind of window. Tried out some small things, found some stuff that was a little bit better, some stuff that was worse, and overall was just happy with it for most of the time out there.
We've got microphone. Barb has generously donated her time to help out for the questions, so if you got a question, let us know. Chris, go ahead, lead us off.
Colton, you mentioned finding some things that didn't work. How frustrating is it to find something that doesn't work and maybe waste a little bit more time? Or is it just, everyone finds things that doesn't work?
I think it depends. If it keeps happening, it's very frustrating. But if, the general direction of the car is moving forward, then it's okay. But yeah, when you get like a few changes in a row, it does get frustrating. You're trying to solve one thing and nothing's really working. But you got to expect most of the changes that you make aren't going to be the ones that you'll keep, unfortunately.
And with Andretti running 3 cars full time and then adding a 4th from Marco instead of one more for each situation last year, how much more workload is it on all of you instead of saying, okay, this driver does this one does this, one does that? Everybody's doing a little bit more this year compared to years prior.
It's been pretty, I don't know. It's been like that ever since I've been with the team, where they've run a lot of cars to the 500. I think even up to 5 was probably the most in-house Andretti cars. So it's not a giant difference to what I'm used to during the month here.
Bruce?
Is today's practice more useful than carb day?
Looking at the weather, probably not. I think it's going to be cooler Friday and also cooler Sunday, and I think the weather is going to be similar or closer on those days. So that'd probably be more useful. It's pretty hot, very hot today.
The fact that it is very hot today and the weather may or may not be cooler on race day, how important is it to get a car that works well in all different weather situations?
I think if you have a good car in the heat, then it just tends to be easier. Once it cools down, you gain more downforce and balance might shift a little bit, but overall, I think you just kind of get better.
And was it fun to get back out there and run in packs again?
Yeah, I mean it's a lot more fun, I think, to be able to pass guys and run around guys and kind of play with the toe in the draft than being out there for qualifying, even though it is exhilarating.
Steve?
Do you think you had the best or one of the best race cars out there, and what other cars looked good?
I definitely felt very good. I felt very confident in the car and what it was able to do, especially with the tailwind where you usually get big understeers. Out of turn 2 today, and the car just felt solid, was right underneath me. So I was happy with that. I think the guys that you would expect probably look good, like Newgarden looked good. Most of the Penske, Scott was okay, but I didn't really run around him that much. I thought my teammate Kyle looked good. But then there are some guys that seem to be struggling too. So it's going to be a big kind of difference, I think, in the field, especially. But who knows, when it cools down. In the heat, it's usually like that, where guys will just struggle a lot more than maybe they actually will.
Thanks.
Back to Bruce. Chris, you have a follow-up too?
You were running well, and Kyle was running well, but Marcus wasn't. And how much of that drama and all that were you just following along, trying to, feel for your teammate to try to do what it did?
Yeah.
Just be glad that,
I don't know. Well, I don't know what happened to him this session, or what he was struggling with yet. But for the qualifying, man, that sucks. It sucks. It's not fun for anybody to be in that position. And you definitely feel for him. Luckily, I have not had to go through that, and I hope I never do. But it's painful. It's painful to see especially, I feel like it's almost worse when it's only one guy being bumped. So.
And also at the beginning of the year, you guys had talked about with his success that he's had here in the 500 that could help elevate the entire game, and it just seemed unexplainable how he ended up being the one guy that had issues.
Well, it's because he tubbed his car in practice.
Yeah.
So, I had to roll out the backup car and didn't have a lot of time to get up to speed. So that was like the big problem. I think his first car had speed, and in the wind tunnel it was similar to mine. So I think he probably would have been right around where I was, maybe ahead or right behind. But yeah, and then you have to go to the backup tub and just kind of bolting on underwing that you don't really know what it's going to do. So yeah, it's definitely a difficult situation. It was one that I was in 22 when I tubbed the car Friday, carb day, and then had to go into a race and could barely run 205. So I mean, it's a difficult situation.
How early in the year does a team pick its Indy car for the race?
I mean, like, this is my car's the same one that I had last year, so I just stayed with it. If there's a new tub, they'll go through the wind tunnel process in the off season and see what they like about it, if it's better, if it's worse, and then usually decisions are made a few months before Indy, so they can have them built and ready.
Take time for a couple more, Joey.
Do you think this is going to be as much of a track position race as we've seen in the past few years, or do you think just kind of based on what we saw today that maybe it'll be a little bit more racier than we expect?
It'll 100% be like what we've had in the last few years, where the top three will pass, and then beyond that it'll be a little bit more difficult. You'll need to have a little bit of a pace advantage, or the guy will have to make a little bit of a mistake. So it's definitely not impossible to pass, but it is difficult in the back of the pack. But you'll still see the same kind of action in the top five.
So how do you break into that? Is that simply just undercuts and overcuts and anything like that, or what?
Yeah, pit strategies can be easiest. Restarts are pretty fair game for the first lap. You can pretty much stay almost flat, and so there's some options of going high or, laying back and getting a run. And then, guys make mistakes all the time. So even though you can't really see them on TV, that's very minor, but it's all in the kind of minute details. You can see guys kind of drift up a little bit, or you can see they're struggling a little bit, and then you can get them on the end of the straight usually.
And then the last one is just because there's been a little bit of changes with the car and then the lightness of it. Has the degradation been a little bit different? Do you notice that the degradation is further into a run?
The deg's a lot better, but the tire's a lot different too. The left sides are different construction, and I believe the sidewalls are a little stiffer, so you would expect a little bit less deg from that. So it's hard to say. I don't think weight has too much of a factor in it. Like when I did the hybrid test here, the car actually felt very similar, and the racing was very similar. So I don't think weight has too much of an effect on these cars at super high speeds.
But where do you expect that fall off to happen?
I don't think there really will be too much fall off. I think the tires are holding in really well, actually, for me. But usually, if you have a really good car, you can just stay flat at the end of a stint if somebody peels off in front of you or you're alone. And I imagine it not to be too different than that, but it just seems kind of throughout the run, in the middle of the run and whatnot, you can kind of stay with the car a lot more.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, let's take one more from Chris. Thanks, Barb.
Appreciate you. Colton, you have community day outreach stuff Wednesday, Thursday you're talking to us all day, Friday is carb day, and Saturday you got the parade. How difficult is it to get kind of away from everything, to have some time to just decompress and everything ahead of 200 laps coming up next Sunday?
I mean, it's not too hectic. It's probably about 5-6 hours of work a day in total between going over, stuff with the engineers and then having community day or whatnot. So there's definitely plenty of time to think about other things or do other things.
Thanks.
For the record, you're not talking to them all day Thursday, just like a couple hours.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
Before you freak out or anything. So
Yeah.
it's all good. Enjoy a couple of days away. We'll see you back here on Thursday.
Thank
you. Colton Herta again, second quick. Pato O'Ward is on his way. He was fifth quick, so stand by for Pato. Thanks, dude.
We got that already. Yep, it's good.
Like the Hardy telling you how your day goes. Like a wrecking ball. Thank you. Ever quotables.
And wrapping up, Pato O'Ward has joined us, fifth quick on the speed chart today, 225.7 in the 70 laps turn by the number 5 Arrow McLaren Chevrolet. He'll start 8th, middle of row 3 coming up on Sunday in his 5th Indianapolis 500. You guys good to go? You need a little more practice time on Friday, or what's the thought process right now?
It definitely hasn't been the best of the days of the month. We've had some annoying issue that we just can't seem to perfect. So I just hope we can fix it. If not, we're going to be in handicap mode for the race. But in terms of balance, I think we're pretty sporty if we fix that. So
We'll open up for questions. We'll start with Bruce here.
Well, now you got us curious. What's the issue?
too many variables, Bruce.
I mean, was it speed? Was it balance? Or
we're slow. We know what it is, but it's a lot easier said than done to like fix it or not have the issue. So, yeah, it just sucks when you're not fast enough around here. Feel helpless.
So how much does this elevate the importance of the 2-hour carb day practice?
I would love to get another run in. Just a few laps would be great, just to see if we were able to at least minimize it. But it's all good. Still enjoying the process.
Chris?
When you're going through your practice programs and you're seeing thing after thing after thing that doesn't quite work, how much does that exacerbate just everything going on when it's like, okay, when are we going to finally have something go the direction that we need it to go?
I mean, all you can do is kind of just ignore it and try to like make all the other things work, and just put a lot of emphasis on that to make sure it doesn't happen on race day. Obviously, there's still a possibility that it could. I think it's part of what you have to kind of battle with around this place. Just there's a fine line with everything. If you want the car to stop well, you're gonna give up in other areas. If you want more speed, you're gonna give up in other performance areas where you kind of need them all in the race. So it's just part of it. It's part of it, and I mean, I'm confident my guys are gonna fix it and really kind of dig into to just see how can we not have that issue and or just get rid of it completely.
And how good is it to not have, or maybe you do want practice between now and Friday, that by not having any track activity, they can go through everything, take everything apart, try and iron everything out?
I mean,
you want practice?
The problem is a lot of the times you take everything apart and it's fine as soon as you go out, but then as runs go on, they start building. So it's just you gotta pepper it in. It's probably the best way I can express it, but I don't want to worry about it. Obviously, it's annoying whenever you're not aware of it until you are aware of it. Then it's like, oh, that explains this, and this. But up until then, it was kind of like, dang, where are we?
Let's take one more off of Zoom. We'll wrap it up. Dan Jones, Dive Bomb Motorsports. Go ahead, Dan.
Thanks, Dave. Hi, Pato. How easy is it to sort of go into race trim after spending the last couple of days in qualifying trim? Is it an adaptation you have to make yourself, or?
Definitely a lot slower. Qualifying is a different dimension, I would say, in terms of just how much lighter the car is by yourself. But in race mode, you can scare yourself for sure. It was today, the track in 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 for me was a bit of a bit different than what I had feeling the past couple days in race running. So it was just in race day maybe it comes and it's the absolute opposite, or maybe both ends of the track feel the same. I mean, that's why you've got the tools inside of the car, right? But ultimately, it's just all about staying on top of it, and then just having enough things that you can kind of pepper in throughout the race in order to have it comfortable enough. The worst thing that can happen is, just not by the front wing or rear wing or the bars that you've got and the weight jacker. If you can't really alter the balance to a somewhat comfortable liking, then it really is a miserable 3 hours.
And last few weeks, how's it been working with Carl Larson? Have you sort of learned anything from him? Have you been talking to him much in the entire process?
Honestly, he's had a very intense schedule, so I haven't really seen him much. We've talked to each other a couple of times, but yeah, in a lot of the debriefs, he's not there because yesterday he had a race. He's got a packed schedule, so we actually don't get to see him a lot.
Awesome, thanks, Pato. Best of luck for the week ahead.
Cheers, thank you.
Okay, Dan, wrap it up in person. Steve, go ahead.
Hey, Pato. I know you're working on your own program, but was there anyone else out there who looked particularly sporty?
I think a lot of cars look very sporty. I mean, more than I can count with my fingers, I would say. I think there's a lot of cars with a shot. Maybe it's just because I felt a little slow. We speed up, we'll be fine.
Thanks for coming up. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
After a couple days off, we'll see you back here on Thursday, Media Day, and then next track activity comes up Friday, Carb Day, with 2-hour practice beginning at 11 a.m. Thanks, everyone.